Today we're going to be talking about island fishing, and we're going to cover everything you need to know to get on the sport boat and be prepared for your island fishing trip. My name is Benji. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm at Island Fishing Tackle in Carson. I want to thank Sam so much. Sam's the owner of Island Fishing Tackle. Yeah. And how long have you been running the store? 10 years in the store, and thank you so much for opening up your shop, allowing us to come here. And one thing that Anthony and I always like to say is support your local shop, and so we're so privileged to be able to visit different places and learn from your expertise. As always, you guys know Anthony, and he's here with us again today, and we're going to talk about island fishing, and we're going to break it all down. So before we do anything else, Anthony, can you actually give us a little primer and introduction into what is island fishing? Like, what does that encapsulate? I think as I've been doing a little bit, I realize it's actually pretty diverse. Yep. So if you can break it down for us.
Yeah, so basically when you guys are gearing up for an island trip, you know, you'll see the island freelance on the header of the charter boat that you're going on. You're basically going to be fishing pretty tight to the island for most of it, and you're going to be fishing a variety of species. You'll be covering yellowtail, of course, calicos, white sea bass, halibut. You'll have your bottom dwellers like your sheephead, your whitefish, and then a variety of rockfish that goes with all that, lingcod, cabezon, whatever else you might stumble on. But one of the cool things with island fishing is you never really know what you're going to be seeing that day. Conditions change daily. Just because they caught yellowtail today doesn't mean they're going to catch it tomorrow. So you can't go out there with just one thing ready to go target what you think is happening from today's fish report. So we're going to cover a little bit of like the variety and how to be prepared to adapt on the fly to what the crew are telling you. As the conditions change throughout the day, even sometimes you have to rig completely different. This time of year we'll see the halibut and white sea bass in the morning and maybe transition into searching for yellowtail, calicos, bonita, and some bottom grabbers. So we'll cover all of that in this video.
That's awesome. Sam, do you have anything else that you want to add to, you know, defining what island fishing is?
Yeah, you know, Anthony pretty much covers it. I mean, obviously when we go from the mainland to the island, you're going through a big area of super deep water where there's not much fish, and you get to a big structure where that's where the fish are going to be. So all the fishing is going to be all around points in the island. I think that's what we're going to talk about, how to do different things at different parts of the island, different species.
Yeah, so it just sounds like what's really, really important is being properly prepared for everything that you can be targeting. And so for me, when I first got into the sport boat game, it wasn't something that was that like attractive to me, but the more I've done it, the more fun it is because you're always on your toes. Yep. And depending on where the captain leads you and what's biting, you have to be ready. And so I actually really, really enjoy it now. It's super fun. It's one of my favorite things to do on a sport boat. Yep. I think that one reason why you might be on this video is you want to jump on a sport boat to go to the islands for maybe a 3/4 day, full day, or even an overnight. How do you prepare? What do you need? So we want to talk about rods, reels, and all the terminal tackle that you'll need. And we've got pretty much everything set up here right in this box. And I got an exciting announcement for you guys regarding this box at the end of this video. But I'm going to have these guys the experts take it away and talk to us about what you can have prepared with you on the boat when it comes to rods and reels, and then we'll go into terminal tackle. This is a 2-part video, so after this video, we're going to be filming another episode about techniques and how to fish these rigs, how to tie knots, and have you get really up to date and ready to have a successful fishing trip on the islands. So without any further ado, I'm going to give the floor away to Anthony, our resident expert, and he's going to talk to us. You want to start with the reels or the rods? How do you want to go?
Yeah, we can start with reels. Basically, we're going to be covering a smaller section of the water column, typically island fishing anywhere from that 150 feet and shallower, fishing kelp beds, fishing structure. With that, you don't need giant reels. You know, any of your bait casters, we have a Komodo up here. The 300 or 400 size reel is more than enough to handle a lot of your calicos, bonita, all your shallow water fish. The 400, if you're going to target yellowtail, I recommend it. Or what I like to do is go up to a round reel. Typically they have a bigger gearbox, a bigger drag system, so you're going to get a little bit more out of some of these bigger round reels, but still staying fairly small. But for a lot of us that like throwing artificials into the kelp or fishing a lighter setup for whitefish, sheephead, on a small dropper loop, something like a 300 or 400 size bait caster would be very appropriate. On our round reel, I have the Okuma Tesoro 5 in my hand. Perfect size reel for handling your yellowtail. It will also double up for the same stuff your bait caster will do. So you can definitely fish your bonita, your calicos. You could dropper loop with it for your shallow water species. Great all around reel. There are other brands if you're not into the Okuma, but That's the one we're recommending tonight. You can also go with the Shimano, like a 16 narrow or a 14. Daiwa has the Saltis. Penn has the Fathoms, or if you want to get super fancy, you could go to one of their Torques. But if you just want to stay with something in a good price point, the Okuma Tesoro is a solid option. If you want a good 2-speed reel, narrow, something that you could do like some speed jigging with or some slow pitch fishing with, have the 2-speed option. If you do happen to hook something bigger than you were expecting, maybe you're white sea bass fishing, you hook a black sea bass or a big bat ray, and you really don't want to sit there and try to fight a bigger fish for longer than you were expecting, the 2-speed option can save you, especially early in the morning when you have a small bite window. Something like a 5 narrow would be super appropriate. When we get away from the island, that's where we're gonna wanna fish like our yo-yo setup or our deep water rockfish setup. Sometimes they do this to go fill the sacks, you know, maybe you had a tough day at the island, not much condition. So we roll out and we fish some of the rockfish, and you know, maybe there's a good high spot off the island with some yellowtail that are eating the yo-yo well. A 12 sized reel from Okuma or a 12 narrow would be ideal. In the other brands, the sizing changes. So a 12 in the Okuma isn't always a 12 in the other reels. You could use a Talica, or you could use also a Saltiga, maybe a Penn Fathom 25 if you want, but something like this would be ideal.
What reel is this one? It's
I'm sorry, that's the Alijos. Basically, it's a miniature Machaira that has the same internals as the Machaira. It does come with the cast control, which is pretty cool. And then it's gonna come with the power handle. So for your yo-yoing or for your drop or looping when you're fishing deep, it's gonna help prevent a lot of that cramping. It's gonna help prevent a lot of arm fatigue, just having the oversized power handle. Also a 2-speed reel, so maybe the captain decides he's feeling frisky and he drops down to 400 or 500 feet. And, you know, winding a reel with a higher gear ratio, you know, in single speed is going to take forever. Get your fish a couple cranks off the bottom, pop it in low gear, and just do a nice steady wind on that. And, you know, just don't forget to put it back in high speed before you drop again.
Obviously tonight we are Team Okuma, and you know, I've just joined the Okuma team. Anthony actually works for Okuma.
Yep.
While we want to showcase these products to you because we believe in it, they're good products, they're excellent products, and we believe in what we're talking about. By no means are we ever going to tell you what you have to use something. Use what you love, but we want to give you kind of a framework of what you want to look for. So reel sizing and line capacity, things like that. If you're not into certain reels, just choose something and use this as a guideline to kind of fill out your setup.
That's basically what we're doing, is breaking down sizing. We're huge. I'm a big believer in Okuma. They make some incredible products, but there are other options out there. Just check with your local tackle store what they have.
So one of the goals for tonight is we want to make it as easy as possible for you guys to pick up the essentials for your island fishing trip. And so I'll include in the video description a full breakdown of each of the items that Anthony and Sam were talking about, and we'll pair it up, the reels and the recommended rods for them, to just make it real easy. If you just want to pick up what you need, just check the video description, and also come check out Island Tackle here in Carson. Sam is extremely knowledgeable and very, very kind, and he's gonna help you out. And again, watch the end of the video. We got a special announcement regarding this little box here. But excellent introduction into reels that you're gonna need. Thank you so much. Anthony, can you take us away into rods?
Yeah, absolutely. So we picked out a variety of rods that we'll cover. Basically on the, you know, we're gonna want rods that complement the reels that we're picking out. You know, for our Komodo, we're gonna want an Inshore style rod, something typically with a trigger grip, reel seat, decent sized guides where your connection knot can go through. So watch out you're not getting something with micro guides on it. Just because the rating's right doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work good when you're fishing maybe a 30-pound or a 40-pound fluoro leader to your braid. That could really do some damage to the inserts of the guides on a big cast. Or, you know, you might roll up to a spot of boiling yellowtail and that's your one shot of the day, and you whiff it, you know, with your braid connection getting caught in smaller guides, and then you're stuck on doing a backlash while the bite's happening. So just make sure you're getting something with appropriate sized guides, something that'll fit the reel seat. And I recommend a trigger grip to match up with your bait caster. So Sam pretty much has the exclusive on these right now. And this particular rod is gonna be while supplies last. Great rod that's coming in at a great value. This rod's $100. It's the Axeon Pro. They've got ceramic insert guides, so they're gonna be braid rated. It's a really comfortable rod that's gonna handle your whitefish or sheephead. It'll handle a yellowtail. It'll handle your calicos and bonita and barracuda. So definitely something that'll get a lot done without breaking the bank. Whatever bait caster you decide to go with, throw it on there. But Sam pretty much wiped these things out. So while supplies last, definitely check with Sam on this one. We're gonna cross over to another rod that's gonna kind of overlap with that is still around. It's gonna have a higher price point. I picked up a spinning rod just to let you guys know, it is okay to fish a spinning rod. If they talk about coffee grinders, if this is something that allows you to get out and fish, use it. Guys are out casting bait casters with live bait, fishing a spinning rod. And sometimes that's the difference of you getting your 1 trip or your 2 trips in a year and capitalizing on the fish. So don't feel bad. At the end of the day, it's your trip and you need to make sure that you're catching fish. The PCH Custom Inshore is a crowd favorite. This rod has been around for a minute. They're gonna be around for a minute. It's a classic. They sell a lot of them. It does come in the baitcaster version like the Axeon Pro I just showed you, trigger grip, reel seat, you know, appropriate size guides, great action options. But we also have it, I just brought the specific spinning rod up to show you guys, a 4,000 or a 5,000 size spinning reel for your Calicos Bonita Barracuda. A 6,000 size I would recommend if you want to get into targeting yellowtail more consistently. They're running about 220 for the inshores. Solid option, baitcaster or spinning, whatever makes you happy. And then we're gonna go to something that's gonna fit your either a smaller 2-speed or a star drag. This is gonna be your fly lining rod. I'm recommending the Okuma PCH rod. This will be the standard PCH versus the inshore. This is gonna be your offshore fly lining setup. This will be your island fly lining setup, you know, fishing 25 and 30 pound fluorocarbon, recommending putting 50 or 65 pound braid on your reel and just get a nice fly line action out of it. Aluminum reel seat, super durable. They've got the shrink wrap on there.
Would it be fair to say that this is kind of going to be your workhorse rod?
Yeah,
typically speaking.
Yeah, a 7.5 or an 8 foot, you know, something rated 15 to 40 is going to be the rod that you're probably reaching for to cover everything. If you ask me, hey, what's the one rod you're bringing? It would be a reel like this with a rod like that, and that covers everything.
When you say a reel like this and a rod like that, can you specify so
Absolutely.
we know what the hell we're talking about?
So
Just
Like this and like that. Yeah.
that's why it's Benji's channel. Yeah. The particular reel we're showing, the Tesoro 5 with the PCH, I pulled out the 8 foot medium heavy. It's the 15 to 40 rated. So that 25 and 30 pound fluorocarbon rating on there is perfect. The braid doesn't matter. If you fish 50 or 65 pound braid on a rod rated 15 to 40, it doesn't matter. It's all about drag rating. So when we put our leader on there, we're gonna fish drag appropriate for 25 or 30 pound, which is the weakest link of our chain. So that reel with that rod, with that braid and fluoro combo matches up really, really well. One of the things we touched on real quick was, you know, getting a really narrow reel that we could do some slow pitching or speed jigging with. More people are getting into this, and it's super effective out here, for whether it's for the rockfish or the yellowtail. It's just gaining popularity, gaining traction, so we're gonna see a lot more people doing it. The more people doing it, the easier it is to do it on a sport boat. So if there's one guy doing it and a bunch of other conventional gear, sometimes you wanna try to find a corner of the boat by yourself and fish it by yourself so you're not in tangles or dealing with the other types of fishing that are going on when you're doing it. The particular rod I'm showing you, the Okuma Tesoro rod, they come in at 170. They have for the rod holder, they already have the foam attachment there, so it's not beating up your blank if you know, you put it in a rod holder on your private boat. If you're fishing on a sport boat, probably a little less relevant. You could probably push it up or down, keep it out of the way, whatever's more comfortable for you. Again, you can use this at any of the islands, any time of year. There's something out there that is going to eat a slow pitch style. This particular one is rated 100 to 250 gram. That's going to be pretty appropriate for a lot of what we're doing out here. If you do want to get into some really shallow stuff, there are some lighter options, but your workhorse rod is going to be that one, the one rated 100 to 250.
Just as a side note on these here, you mentioned the grams. It's a good way to kind of help you choose the rod you're gonna buy. Is that you typically gonna go about a foot per gram as far as the size of jig you're gonna use. So if you're fishing 100 feet of water, it's about a 100 gram jig and so forth. So this rod would work really good, especially when you get into some of that stuff around like Lake San Clemente, fishing the 9 or places like that where you might do, traditionally you would do more of a yo-yo type rod and reel. I think that's where you're gonna show now. This would kind of be the equivalent, and you would kind of measure it in that way, kind of by the jig size which you're gonna use, which is gonna be between probably 150 to 250 is going to be the heaviest, but this rod will be perfect for that.
You know, if you watched Anthony and I's slow pitch video last year, you can check that out, but we did a whole segment on slow pitch jigging, and the Tesoro is a slow pitch rod, and yeah, I actually picked one up. I haven't used it yet. I'm looking forward to hopefully not tangling people. I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, this weekend he's gonna go break it in, so we'll get some better reviews on that, but we're big fans of them.
Yeah, and you're gonna find too that they kind of have a little bit more backbone than some of the other kind of traditional slow pitch style rods. I kind of like it a lot. You know, Anthony introduced me to them, you know, before the shows, and I picked up a whole bunch of them just because I thought they were different, something kind of cool and relevant to our Southern California fishing. Whereas it does kind of like work the right size jigs that we want, but also too, if you're fishing for one size fish, maybe a smaller bonita or something like that, and all of a sudden you hook a 15 or 20 pound yellowtail, I think you're going to be in great shape with something like this. It's got really nice action.
The final rod that we'll go over is going to be the, and this gets us into, you can fish your bluefin, your deep water rockfish, your yo-yo. This covers an awful lot on the heavier side, would be your 40 pound yo-yo rod. So the particular one we have here is a 7.5 foot rated, this is a 30 to 60 rod, but a 20 to 40 or a 30 to 60 based on how you're feeling. If you're trying to cross over with some bluefin, that 30 to 60 is fine. If you're trying to keep it as a designated yo-yo rod and then you're gonna get into some bluefin stuff later, a 20 to 40 or a 25 to 60 is perfect. Typically a 7.5 foot rod, you could shorten that up a little bit. It'll be your dropper loop. So if you're fishing dropper loops for white sea bass, double dropper loop for rockfish in 300-400 feet of water, and maybe you're fishing out there and the bluefin show up and you want a fly line, you'll grab your 2-speed reel, throw it on there, and you're good to go. So always good to have a good 40 pound setup with you, especially when you're fishing the island. You have no idea what you're gonna run into, especially nowadays. I mean, 12 years ago, we went to the island. We weren't really recommending a whole lot of 40 pound setups, but I'd say with the last 4 years, we're seeing so many options on the way home. How many trips have caught, 100 pound bluefin on the way home, and guys with the little noodle rods are not going to get it done. So having this in your arsenal ready to go is a great option.
And just a reminder, I'm going to put all the gear information in the video description. And so again, we're featuring all Okuma products tonight. So I will put those specific rods and reels in there, but I'm also going to include the rod and reel specs of what you want for each kind of application. So if you want to go in a different direction, you're more than welcome to do so. Just follow those guidelines for the line and lure ratings, as well as the reel size and braid capacity and things like that. Okay, so that was stinking awesome. Thank you guys so much. I'm just so privileged to be able to stand in between these two professionals. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna talk about your tackle box. So I remember a couple years back, I was hanging out with Anthony and he let me borrow his island box. And I'm like, you have an island box? And it was way bigger than this, but it was just so specific and every different kind of application. And that's kind of what got me really actually curious about island fishing. Was I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Like he was prepared for every scenario. So when I borrowed his box on the boat with me, I was like, I'm prepared. I'm more prepared than anyone else on this boat. And I felt so cool. And so tonight we're gonna kind of share a little bit of the way that Sam and Anthony would prepare a box, and you can actually prepare a box similar to this so that you can be the guy on the sport boat that has everything ready and maybe even letting other people borrow certain things that they didn't prepare for. So Anthony, I want to give the floor over to you, and if you can talk a little bit about what's in your island fishing tackle box.
Absolutely. Basically, when you're going to the island, there's so many conditions being thrown at you, and being able to adapt, just on the fly is something that's super important. A quick breakdown of, the tackle. The first thing I'm going to go over is one of my favorite techniques for the island. That's the surface iron. I always have surface irons with me, whether I'm offshore fishing or fishing the island. You can't go wrong with it. It catches everything that's swimming around those islands. You can cast it out at barracuda, bonita, calicos, yellowtail, bluefin if they show up at the island, but just something like a Tatty 45. For the island, I like fishing blue and white, scrambled egg, any of those popular colors. If you're not sure what those colors are, you come to the shop. Every shop has a huge variety of jigs. Just talk to one of the shop guys and tell them what you're after, and they'll set you up. Sam will happily break down jigs. He has a crazy collection as well. But, a classic, a blue and white, it's kind of hard to go wrong with. Once we get away from the surface iron, maybe you're out there and the captain's metering yellowtail in 120, 150 feet of water. Your surface iron's not going to be as effective. Something like a Salis 6X Junior, very effective. You could catch your rockfish on it. You could catch your sheephead on it. you could definitely catch your yellowtail on it. So you're dropping it down there, just drop it down to the bottom, hit the bottom, click it in gear, and start winding up at a pretty consistent rate. Doesn't have to be the fastest you've ever wound a reel, but do have a really good consistent speed wind up. If your jig is spinning too much, you'll twist up your line and you're not going to be as effective. So you want to like watch it in the water a little bit and see at what point it's snaking up through the water. That's going to be the speed that you want to maintain when you drop it down. So try to get a feel for that. When you have that snaking action, that's going to get you bit a lot more consistently than a jig spinning because you're winding too fast. Colors on these, very standard, blue and white, mint and white. Red crab is a big, very popular color, scrambled egg, anything that's going to have some contrast. The springtime when there's squid around, scrambled egg is very popular because it's going to imitate that natural squid color a little bit better. So don't be afraid to go with something just because it looks a little yellow doesn't mean it's a bad color. Once we get out of the jigs, we're going to have some smaller profile jigs. AFCO came out with some really cool options. Daiwa has the Zakana jig, Shimano has the Colt Sniper. AFCO made a couple cool options. They have the hybrid and the crossbreed. So that's going to be more similar to the straight heavy jig. Nice profile. It comes in a variety of sizes. You could get down into a smaller one, or you could go into a bigger profile like this based on the wind, current, how far you want to cast it. You know, if you're fishing, if they're on anchovies, maybe go to a smaller one. If they're on sardines or mackerel, you could get away with some of your bigger sizes. You could vertical fish that one like a yo-yo, or you could cast it and keep your rod up and wind at a better rate, and you'll keep it up on the surface. One of the jigs that I thought was pretty innovative was also from AFCO. They did more of a surface iron style. So it's the Colt Sniper profile, that small baitfish profile, but it's also going to be in a lighter weight bait. So this is a ABS bait. You can cast it out and it's going to stay up high. So you don't have to wind it fast to keep it up higher. So you could treat it more like a surface iron with that small baitfish pattern. Comes in a variety of sizes. So just you'll pick the weight based on the rod and based on the bait that they're chasing for that day. If your rod's too heavy to cast the smaller ones, you're not going to be effective. So you're going to want to go to a bigger one, but this is one of their larger ones. I did that so it was easier to see on camera. They come with extremely heavy duty hardware. So even if you hook a tuna on this, it's a wire through bait ready to go with tuna proof hooks. Angry yellowtail at the island, not a problem. Bonita barracuda, super easy. Once we get outside of our jigs, we're gonna go into our classic bait presentations. At the island, you'll be doing a lot of fly lining. Huge fan of the owner Flyliner hooks. Low profile hook, extremely sharp, very sticky. They stick on the baits and they have a smaller gap than a lot of hooks. So that's key for hiding that bait around the island or hiding the hook in the bait around the island where some of these fish get a lot more pressure, so they tend to be more finicky. So having a hook like that owner Flyliner was really, really important. Whether you're shoulder hooking, collar hooking, nose hooking, or butt hooking your bait, the hook works really well. Sometimes the fish are down a little deeper, maybe there's not as much current, you're trying to get your bait through the kelp on a slack current day, or the fish are just hugging the bottom. A little sliding sinker. You could get the glow in the dark or the natural, it's up to you. I do like having a variety of the glow in the darks in my box. That way if I am fishing white sea bass, or we get there in the gray light and we can fish that halibut white sea bass bite with some squid, or you know, you want to put a fluke on there, you could use a different sized hook with a sliding sinker and let that bait fall down naturally that way. Variety of egg sinkers have to be in your box. I like fishing anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4. Once I get outside that 3/4, I do prefer to switch over to a dropper loop style torpedo sinker, and that way I can get better presentation out of my bait. But 1/4 ounce to 3/4, egg sinkers are extremely affordable. I recommend every size. You know, just get one pack of every size. It's going to cost you a couple bucks and you'll have it covered.
So Anthony, you introduced to us the owner hooks for fly lining. What size would you recommend that we have in our box?
Number 1 and number 2 are probably going to be the 2 most popular size for the island. If you're going to be doing like the whitefish and sheephead, a lot of guys will fish a 4 and a 2. On my sheephead, I do like fishing a little bit bigger in case you do get some big ones, but sometimes you get the little ones just pecking at you and you rather just hook it than not. Typically for my whitefish, I don't go crazy expensive on my hooks. I'll get the Mustad. They have like their little economy packs of Mustad. Sam has a huge complement of them. He has the bulk pack, which are the most economical. He has the small packs if you don't want to put a bunch of hooks in your box. But just a really small, a number 4 or a number 2 in the Mustad 9174 is just their little, it's their economy pack. You can find them at pretty much every tackle shop I've ever been to. and Sam has a huge complement of them. After I get out of the standard fly line and egg sinker setup, I'm gonna be fishing my dropper loop for white sea bass. You'll also use that same, like maybe a reverse dropper loop or your extra long dropper loop. Halibut will bite that as well. The owner, Aki Twist, kind of has that market cornered. They've made an incredible hook. I don't think anybody's really made anything too aggressive that competes with it. That offset circle hook is very, very effective. It's key. It gets caught in the corner of their mouth really readily. Super strong hooks, and they come in a very wide range of sizes. Typically, I only have 2 sizes in my box, and that's gonna be a 5.0 and a 9.0. The 5.0, if I got smaller size squid or we're using strips of squid because we don't have a whole lot of whole squid, I'll drop down to a smaller size hook and try to get the biggest strip of squid and maybe pin a head on there as well. Or if they're just little small squid, I'll put 2 of them on like a 5.0 hook. If we're getting good size squid or I'm pairing up 2 medium size squid, I like to go to the 9.0. White sea bass are not line shy, they are not hook shy. They're sensitive to noise, they're sensitive to current, but they are not line shy, not hook shy. So if I can get away with a 9.0 hook, I will. One of the hottest techniques for the last couple of years by far has been the leadhead and fluke. You know, a big fluke like this is the sudden impact, something white. There are other brands. Sam carries a wide variety of brands. He has Z-Man for sure, I know that. Sudden impact. He has the Zoom super flukes and the Magnum flukes as well. Sudden impacts come in a larger size, so sometimes you can get that more discerning fish or a better quality fish out of the pack. You know, something like that that runs a little bit larger would be a great option. One of the most popular lead heads has been the Gets It heads. From Dolphin Tackle. Sam has a huge complement of those. He has it in 4 different colors, every different size. For my leadhead and squid, leadhead and flukes, I recommend a 1/4 ounce to 3/4, kind of same deal as my sliding sinkers. The heaviest I keep in my box is 1.5 ounces on the heads. And that's if the current's up and you know, it's ripping. After that, it's not as much fun to fish the really heavy lead heads. That's where I'll switch back over to a dropper loop setup with a torpedo sinker. But feel free to go like that 1.5 ounces. If you want to go heavier, go for it. But typically a good rod that's going to handle our leadhead and squid is going to cover that like 1/4 ounce to 1.5 ounces really well. Above that, sometimes the rod changes or it's not as effective. I put in 3 sizes in here. I put glow in the dark and white. They're the 2 most popular colors. I put in the 3/8, the 1/2 ounce, and the 3/4 ounce. So there's 3 sizes in there. They're my 3 most favorite size to fish. If the current's up a little bit, I want to go up to a 3/4 ounce. The flanges on this are designed to help keep it in the mid-water column. You'll note the awkward eye position on there as well. This bait is designed to sit flat in the water with your fluke on it like that, and it's designed to rock around. So as this bait's going down there, it's going to look very natural. It's going to hover in the water column. It's not just going to sit on the bottom doing nothing. It's going to stay there and it's going to hover and wiggle around. So great lead heads. And then for your squid, if you decide to go the squid, either fresh dead or frozen or live, you could pin 1 or even 2 good sized squid on here and get it'll look like 2 squid mating. They're busy thinking about something else, so they're not even paying attention to the sea bass coming up on them, and you know, that just makes a great presentation. A couple other great presentations, right? There's never just one option. We have the banana heads. You'll find those from a variety of brands. This is the Dolphin Tackle version. Leadmaster made one that comes with an oversized hook on there, a 2X hook, so you can fish the banana head. Great for when you're hopping on the bottom, right? So these ones here are designed to hover in the mid-water column, so I typically fish the lighter versions of these. When we want to drag it on the bottom, just slow lifts of the rod, wind down. That's going to be where the banana head style comes into play. The other one that's been extremely effective, Afrin at Warbait, you know, he's paying attention constantly to what we're doing. He made some great options in the neckbreaker in that 3/4, 1 ounce size heads. They come in the bright white and the glow. Sam has both of those in stock. We are coming up on sea bass time, you know, that springtime bite. If you guys are sitting at home and you don't have one of these, I recommend going before the sea bass bite. These are going to be hot and hard to find. People last year found out how effective they were, and Sam's stocked up ready to go for a reason. When you come in, you'll see he has a lot of them. I am recommending, Sam is as well, upgrade to these hooks. These owner jungle hooks are going to be in the 7.0. On the neckbreaker, they have a heavy duty split ring. Upgrade the hook into this one. That'll allow you to fish your bigger flukes on it, or even a double squid presentation. The hooks that come on here, if you want to fish them stock and just fish a smaller fluke or a squid, not a problem. But Sam conveniently put these hooks right next to these baits. So if you come in here to the shop, he made it really easy for the angler. Come in, buy a pack of each, you're good to go.
Let's let you catch your breath.
Yep.
And then do you want to take over the sinkers?
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is going to be kind of more of our kind of extra fishing we might do there. You know, talk about rock fishing, but also maybe even some dropper loop fishing for the sea bass and for halibut. So you're going to be getting into your smaller torpedoes right here, from maybe a 2 ounce up to about a 4 ounce. That's going to be kind of your range for fishing right in there as far as your dropper loop stuff for your halibut and sea bass. Once you get off the island, possibly maybe towards the end of the day, and try to catch some rockfish, you're going to get into your larger torpedo sinkers, 6, 8, 10, even up to a 16 ounce, depending on how much wind or current there is. That's pretty much what you're going to need all these other sinkers for in the box.
So thank you so much, Anthony, for sharing your expertise, as well as Sam for just sharing this wealth of knowledge. And we've accumulated this box, and this box right here is everything that you're gonna need outside of your leader, right?
Right.
You might need some leader, but other than that, you take this on the box, you're more than set. And the special announcement that we're gonna have here is Sam has generously said to one person, the very first person who comes into Island Fishing Tackle in Carson, by saying that you saw this on the video. This is actually a $220 value. Everything in here, I brought out my little calculator. I'm an English major, so I can't do it in my head. I had to punch in my calculator. $220 worth of everything that you see, not the reels, but all the terminal tackle that you see right here, $220 value. Sam is gonna blow it out to the first person who comes in and claims it for $140.
That's right.
That is insane.
Yeah, man.
So thank you so much for sharing that stoke, and hopefully that builds some excitement for you guys. So this is part 1 of 2. We're gonna film right after this. Sam's gonna take the lead on this next one, and we're gonna talk about rigging and technique. So we'll tie some knots, show you every knot that you're gonna need to know to be successful on your island fishing trip. We'll show you the dropper loop, the double dropper loop, and some other stuff. All the essentials that you're gonna need. Stick around for part 2. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out. Thanks so much, and as always, tight lines.